Ladies and gentlemen, if you keep lowering your standards just to be loved, respected, or chosen, let me ask you this: what are you really gaining? Love that costs your self-worth is too expensive. This isn't about arrogance, it's about alignment. Because the moment you decide to treat yourself like royalty, the world has no choice but to rise and meet your crown. Stay with me, because today we're raising the bar, not just for them, but for you. When you start recognizing your worth, the world begins to adjust itself accordingly. The truth is, people only treat you the way you allow them to. If you carry yourself like someone who deserves the best, respect, love, loyalty, then that's what you attract. But if you constantly downplay your value, make excuses for mistreatment, or stay silent when you should speak up, you send a message that says you're okay with less. Self-worth isn't a gift that comes from others. It's a decision you make every day, by the way you think, speak, and act. You are the first person who needs to believe in your worth, because if you don't, no one else truly will. It's not about arrogance or pride. It's about owning your space in this world without apology. You're not here to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You're here to grow, to rise, and to be exactly who you were meant to be. And that starts the moment you stop waiting for permission. You teach people how to treat you by the way you treat yourself. If you constantly put your needs last, if you're always apologizing for taking up space, or if you allow others to cross your boundaries, you're showing them that you don't believe you're important. That mindset invites disrespect, not because others are cruel, but because you've left the door open. On the other hand, when you carry yourself with dignity and act like someone who is deeply worthy of care, you raise the standard. Others may not always meet it, but at least you'll know who truly belongs in your life. Setting a standard is a form of self-respect. It's not about control. It's about clarity. When your actions show that you honor yourself, the wrong people will fall away and the right ones will step up. It's not magic, it's alignment. You attract what you're brave enough to demand and what you're strong enough to walk away from if it falls short. Too often, people lower their expectations just to keep someone around. They settle for half love, mixed signals, and broken promises. All because they're afraid to be alone. But being alone and being lonely are two very different things. There is power in choosing solitude over chaos, peace over confusion, and self-love over codependence. The minute you realize that your happiness isn't tied to another person, you free yourself. You step into a version of life that is driven by purpose and not just presence. That's when love becomes something that adds to your life instead of something that fills a void. The fear of being alone is the very thing that often keeps people in situations where they're not respected. But freedom begins the day you say, "I'd rather be alone and whole than together and broken." That's a queen's mindset, complete with or without a crown by her side. When you value yourself, you stop entertaining people who don't. You stop replying to disrespect with silence. You stop trying to fix those who clearly don't want to grow. You stop shrinking just to be loved in small doses. Instead, you expand, you grow, you evolve into someone who doesn't chase love, but attracts it through sheer authenticity. There's something magnetic about a person who knows their worth and doesn't compromise it for anyone. It's not just about what you say, it's how you live, how you carry yourself, how you show up, even when no one's watching. Every decision becomes a declaration. This is what I'm worth, and I will not accept less. That consistency builds not just respect from others, but a kind of inner peace that no one can take away. You become untouchable not because you're distant, but because you're deeply rooted in self-belief. Being treated like royalty starts with treating yourself like one. It's in the way you talk to yourself on your worst days, in the way you nourish your body, in the boundaries you set, and the people you choose to keep around. Every act of self-care is an act of revolution in a world that profits from your self-doubt. Every time you say no to something that doesn't serve you, you say yes to something greater. Self-love is not just bubble baths and affirmations. It's also discipline, honesty, and walking away from what doesn't align with your worth. It's choosing not to fight for a place at tables where you're not respected. You don't have to beg to be chosen. You don't have to beg to be seen. You were born enough. And once you start living like that's true, the game changes entirely. People see you differently, not because they've changed, but because you have. Confidence is born from self-respect. And self-respect comes from keeping the promises you make to yourself. When you say you won't settle and then actually don't, you build trust with yourself. When you walk away from toxicity and honor your standards, you prove that your love isn't negotiable. That kind of consistency creates confidence that doesn't waver. It's not dependent on someone else's compliments or commitment. It's grounded in who you are. You no longer seek validation from the outside because you've already given it to yourself. Not because you asked, but because they see the energy you radiate. They see the strength in your choices. They see the queen in your posture, in your presence, in your peace. Respect starts from within and ripples outward. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. Perfection is an illusion that keeps people stuck in cycles of insecurity. What truly makes you powerful is your ability to stand tall in your flaws, your story, your truth. It's about showing up even when you're unsure, about speaking up even when your voice shakes, and about knowing that your worth isn't tied to your performance. You're allowed to be a work in progress and still be worthy of love and respect. That balance between grace and grit is what makes you unstoppable. People will try to measure your worth by superficial things, looks, status, achievements, but none of that defines you. What defines you is your spirit, your self-awareness, and your ability to choose yourself again and again. Not from ego, but from knowing that you are your own responsibility. You are your own rescue. The way you speak to yourself becomes the script for how others speak to you. If your inner dialogue is full of doubt, shame, and criticism, that energy leaks into your relationships. But when you speak with kindness, power, and purpose to yourself, you begin to shift the energy around you. You stop tolerating low-effort love, half-hearted friendships, and one-sided conversations. You no longer seek out people who treat you like an option. You attract people who see you as a priority, because you've made yourself one. That shift in energy isn't a coincidence. It's a reflection. Life mirrors back to you the way you treat yourself. So be mindful of your thoughts. Speak like you matter. Act like your presence is a gift. Because it is. And when you finally start living like you believe that, others have no choice but to follow your lead. No one can value you more than you value yourself. That's the starting point of every healthy relationship. With friends, with partners, with the world. When you enter any situation already full, not desperate for attention or approval, you show up in your power. You listen more, you compromise better, and you love with more freedom because you're not afraid of losing yourself. That's where real connections are born, not from neediness, but from completeness. That kind of energy is rare, and rare things are often the most respected. So choose to live in a way that commands respect, not by force, but by example. Don't just talk about self-worth, live it, embody it, make it the foundation of every choice you make. When your worth is non-negotiable, the right people will recognize it immediately, and the wrong ones will disappear without needing to be pushed. Living like you know your worth is not always easy, but it's always worth it. There will be moments of doubt, setbacks, and people who challenge your confidence. But that doesn't mean you give up. It means you double down on your truth. You stay loyal to your standards even when it's hard. You choose growth over comfort even when it's lonely. Because deep down you know that the way you treat yourself sets the tone for your entire life. It shapes your relationships, your career, your peace, and your power. You are the example. You are the energy. And once you decide to carry yourself with the grace and strength of someone who knows exactly what they bring to the table, everything changes. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And that is the most powerful transformation of all. Standards are not about being difficult or demanding. They're about being clear. When you have a strong sense of self-worth, you naturally set boundaries that protect your peace, your time, and your emotional energy. People often mistake boundaries for walls, but they are bridges to healthier relationships. A standard isn't about controlling others. It's about knowing what you will and won't accept. When you expect honesty, respect, and effort, you're not asking for too much. You're asking for what's right. Those who truly care about you won't be offended by your standards. They'll be inspired by them. And those who fall away weren't meant to stay. It's never about pushing people away. It's about creating space for the right ones to step in. The more clearly you define your standards, the more peace you'll find in your connection. When you don't have standards, you end up settling for situations that drain you. You tolerate half-hearted apologies, mixed signals, and inconsistent behavior because you're afraid to speak up. But silence doesn't keep the peace. It just postpones the conflict. You were not made to carry the weight of someone else's indecision. You deserve clarity, not confusion. You deserve effort, not excuses. And the moment you decide to raise your standards, you'll start to see who is truly there for you. People who are committed won't be scared by your expectations. They'll be grateful for your honesty. Standards don't scare real love. They protect it. When you stop negotiating with your self-respect, you begin to attract relationships that reflect your true value. You don't have to explain your standards to everyone. Not everyone will understand the level of self-love and clarity it takes to set them. That's okay. Your boundaries are for you, not for their approval. It's not your job to shrink your expectations to make others comfortable. It's your job to grow into the version of yourself who no longer accepts breadcrumbs and calls it love. You're not asking for too much. You're asking for what aligns with your truth. And if someone can't meet that, it's not a rejection of you. It's a redirection toward better. The right people won't ask you to lower your standards. They'll rise to meet them, not out of obligation but out of respect, because they'll see that you're someone who honors themselves, and they'll want to do the same. There's a difference between compromise and self-sacrifice. Compromise means meeting halfway, building together with mutual respect and effort. But self-sacrifice means constantly giving up your needs to maintain someone else's comfort. That isn't love. It's erosion. When you set standards, you protect yourself from the slow fading of your identity in a relationship. You remember that your needs matter just as much as anyone else's. You deserve to feel seen, heard, and valued, not just sometimes but consistently. It's not about being unbending. It's about being clear on what is essential to your well-being. Standards are your way of staying grounded in what truly matters. Without them, You risk losing yourself just to keep someone who was never meant to stay. When someone truly values you, they won't see your standards as pressure. They'll see them as purpose. They'll respect that you know what you want and that you refuse to settle for anything less. People often rise or fall to the level you set, not because they're trying to impress you, but because you inspire them to be better. When you stand firm in your expectations, you encourage growth, not just in yourself, but in those around you. That's not being demanding. That's being intentional. It takes courage to say, "This is the kind of love I deserve." It takes even more courage to walk away when your standards are not being met. But that's the difference between temporary comfort and lasting fulfillment. Standards are the filter that protects your future. Clarity brings peace, and standards bring clarity. When you know what you want and what you won't tolerate, decisions become easier. You don't waste time on relationships that don't align with your values. You stop making excuses for people who consistently disappoint you. You stop rewriting the same story, hoping for a different ending. Instead, you write a new story, one where you are loved fully, not in fragments, one where consistency replaces confusion and actions match words. Standards give you that clarity, and with it comes a kind of peace you can't buy. It's the peace of knowing that you don't need to chase, fix, or beg. You only need to choose. And with every choice that honors your worth, your life becomes more aligned with the love you truly deserve. It's not your job to convince someone to treat you right. That's a standard they should meet without being begged or reminded. If someone constantly needs to be told how to love you, it's not a partnership, it's a lesson. And you were not put on this earth to teach someone your value over and over again. You are not a project to be worked on. You are a person to be cherished. The people who belong in your life will show up with consistency, communication, and care. You won't have to chase them for the bare minimum. They'll give you their best because they see your best. They'll match your energy because they respect your standards. And when that happens, love doesn't feel like a struggle. It feels like home. Having standards doesn't mean you think you're better than others. It means you know what you bring to the table and refuse to sit at one where your presence is undervalued. It's not pride, it's self-awareness. There's a difference between being open and being available to everyone. Your love, time, and energy are precious. Not everyone deserves access to them. When you operate from that understanding, you stop entertaining anything that disrupts your peace. You stop explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding it. And most importantly, you stop settling for surface-level connection when you deserve something real. Standards are not about perfection, they are about protection. And the right people will understand that. The fear of losing people often makes us lower our standards. But the truth is, if you lose someone because you refuse to settle, you didn't really lose them. You gained your freedom. You gained space for someone better. Someone who doesn't see your standards as a burden, but as a beautiful boundary that allows love to grow in a safe space. You are not hard to love. You are just asking to be loved right. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be valued, supported, and chosen. That is not being too much. That is being clear. And the people who are meant for you will appreciate that clarity. They'll honor it, not question it. And they'll love you not just because of your softness, but because of your strength. Your standards shape your story. They determine the kinds of relationships you have, the peace you protect, and the self-respect you maintain. Every time you uphold them, you send a message, not just to others, but to yourself, that you are worthy. Worthy of love that uplifts, not exhausts. worthy of attention that's consistent, not convenient, worthy of respect that's shown, not just spoken. When you live with those truths at your core, your life becomes a reflection of that inner power. And while not everyone will stay, the ones who do will meet you with the love and respect your heart was always meant to receive. Because when your standards are rooted in self-love, they don't just protect you, they elevate everything around you. Confidence is not something you're born with. It's something you build, moment by moment, choice by choice. It starts when you stop seeking permission to be yourself. You begin to recognize that your power doesn't come from someone else's approval, but from your own inner belief. The world may not always celebrate you, but that shouldn't stop you from celebrating yourself. Confidence grows when you show up for yourself every day, even when no one else does. It's in the small things, holding your head high, speaking your truth, keeping your word to yourself. Every time you act with integrity, you reinforce your self-worth. And with each step you take in your truth, you walk deeper into your power. That's how real confidence is built, from the inside out. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room to be the most powerful. Confidence doesn't always shout. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and unshakable. It's in the way you carry yourself, in the way you handle challenges without losing your sense of self. It's not about pretending to be perfect. It's about embracing your flaws without shame. When you're confident, you don't chase validation because you're already full from within. You're not moved by every opinion because you know who you are beyond the noise. Confidence doesn't mean you never feel fear. It means you move forward in spite of it. It's a calm knowing, a deep understanding that you belong wherever you choose to be. And when you own that space, others begin to feel your presence without you having to prove it. The most attractive energy is someone who doesn't seek attention, but commands respect. You don't need to dress a certain way, look a certain way, or speak a certain way to be confident. You just need to be authentic. Confidence is magnetic when it's rooted in realness. People can sense when someone is genuinely secure in who they are. It draws them in, not because of what you have, but because of how you make them feel. Seen, inspired, empowered. That energy starts with how you talk to yourself when no one's around. Are you kind? Are you honest? Are you encouraging? Confidence blooms in those private moments, and its effects are felt in public ones. It's not something you turn on for others, it's something you live by for yourself. Confidence grows when you stop comparing your journey to everyone else's. You are not here to compete, you are here to create. Your path is unique and your timing is perfect, even if it doesn't look like anyone else's. When you stop measuring your worth by someone else's milestones, you free yourself. You begin to appreciate your growth, even if it's quiet, slow, or behind the scenes. Confidence isn't about being the best. It's about being your best. And sometimes your best doesn't look like winning. Sometimes it looks like healing, resting, or just showing up. That's still progress. When you honor your process, instead of rushing it, you learn to trust yourself more deeply. That trust is the foundation of confidence. Knowing that no matter what, you've got your own back. Confidence is built through action. You can read all the quotes, say all the affirmations, and visualize all you want. But until you take that first step, nothing changes. Every time you take action, even if you're uncertain, you prove to yourself that you're capable. That proof adds up. It rewrites the story in your head from, I'm not enough to, I can do this. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to be brave enough to start. Confidence isn't something that waits for perfect conditions. It shows up in the middle of the storm and says, let's go anyway. It grows through discomfort, through mistakes, and through the courage to keep going. The more you do, the more you believe. And the more you believe, the stronger your confidence becomes. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop trying to fit into the mold others have created for you. You realize that confidence isn't about pleasing people. It's about honoring your truth. You don't have to change to be accepted. You only need to be more of who you truly are. That's where real strength lies. When you stand in your authenticity, you no longer create validation from the outside, you validate yourself. You stop asking, "Am I good enough?" and start declaring, "I am enough." That declaration isn't arrogance. It's clarity. It's the result of knowing yourself, accepting yourself, and refusing to dim your light for anyone else's comfort. That clarity radiates as confidence. And when you walk in that light, you give others permission to do the same. Confidence is also about resilience. It's easy to feel strong when everything is going well, but real confidence shows up when life gets messy. It's in how you handle rejection, setbacks, and moments of doubt. Do you fall apart or do you rise stronger? Confidence says, "Even if I fall, I know how to get back up." It's not about never being shaken. It's about not staying down when you are. Every loss becomes a lesson. Every no becomes redirection. The more you survive, the more unbreakable you become. And that unbreakable spirit, that's what confidence is all about. It's earned, not given. And once you have it, no one can take it from you. When you're truly confident, you're not threatened by the success or beauty of others. You can celebrate them without questioning your own value. Confidence makes room for others without feeling smaller. It allows you to lift others up without losing your shine. That's because you know that someone else's light doesn't dim yours. You're secure in your path, your gifts, and your purpose. Insecure people compete. Confident people collaborate. Insecurity tears others down to feel powerful, while confidence uplifts others because it's already whole. That mindset creates deeper relationships, stronger connections, and more meaningful impact. It turns comparison into inspiration and jealousy into admiration. The world doesn't need more competition. It needs more confident people who lead with both strength and humility. Confidence also means owning your voice, not just the way you speak, but the message you carry. When you believe in yourself, you stop staying silent to keep the peace. You speak up for what you believe in, even if it's unpopular. You stand for your values, even when it's uncomfortable. Confidence is the voice that says, "My opinion matters," even when it shakes. It's the strength to advocate for yourself, to set boundaries, and to say no when something doesn't align. That voice becomes your power. It becomes your armor. And the more you use it, the louder it gets. Not in volume, but in impact. Speaking with confidence doesn't mean always being right. It means being willing to show up and speak anyway, knowing that your truth is enough. Confidence is a practice, not a destination. It's not something you arrive at. It's something you return to every day. Some days, it's easy. Other days, it takes effort. But every day, it's worth it. Because confidence changes the way you walk, talk, and show up in the world. It gives you the courage to dream bigger, love deeper, and live bolder. It turns fear into fuel and doubt into direction. You stop asking for permission and start writing your own rules. You stop waiting for someone to choose you and start choosing yourself. And in that choice, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. And that strength, that quiet, steady fire within you, that's what will carry you wherever you want to go.